Welcome, everyone. I'm Steve Farrell, the co-founder and worldwide executive director for Humanities Team, and I'm excited to be here with you for this important, newly expanded program, Smarter, Stronger, Faster, Discover Why You Don't Need Technology to Take a Giant Leap Forward in Human Development. This program is with best-selling authors Gregg Braden, Bruce Lipton, and Lynne McTaggart. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really powerful program in store for you. As we get started, I'm going to introduce Gregg, Bruce, and Lynne. Gregg Braden is a 5-time New York Times bestselling author, researcher, educator, lecturer, and internationally renowned as a pioneer bridging modern science, spirituality, and human potential. His research has led to 15 film credits and 12 award-winning books, now published in over 40 languages. Welcome, Gregg.
Oh, Steve, I am so excited to be with you today, and I'm so honored to be with my esteemed colleagues, my dear friends. And I just wanted a special welcome for everyone that's sharing a part of their day with us today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Gregg. And Bruce H. Lipton, PhD, is an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit, stem cell biologist, best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, and recipient of the 2009 Goy Peace Award. He has been a guest speaker on hundreds of TV and radio shows, as well as keynote presenter for national and international conferences. And welcome to the program, Bruce.
Oh, thank you, Steve. And I really want to thank our audience out there because this is a time of awakening. There's chaos in the world, but what's really happening is an evolutionary upheaval, and we're here to help go through this chaos and come out the other end smiling.
Are we ever? Boy, such an important program, too. Lynne McTaggart is an award-winning journalist, researcher, and the author of 7 books, including The Power of 8 and the worldwide bestsellers, The Field, The Intention Experiment, and The Bond, all considered seminal books of the new science and now translated into 30 languages. She's also architect of The Intention Experiment, a global laboratory involving thousands of readers around the world testing the power of group thoughts to heal the world. And welcome, Lynne.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you for including me. I'm honored to be with this group. I'm honored to talk about this subject. I think there couldn't be a more important time, Steve, where we're looking at technology for answers. And what we're going to be talking about is how much of those answers we have inside ourselves already. So I'm thrilled to be part of this.
Why, so true, Lynne. Me too. And my gosh, what an important time to be bringing a program like this out. So let me just share, Gregg, Bruce, and Lynne have helped hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to harness the fullness of their human capacity so they may evolve into their peak human potential. This is the first time they've collaborated on a program such as this. Also, before we go further, I want to let you know that near the end of this program, we're going to tell you about a newly expanded 8-week masterclass with Gregg, Bruce, and Lynne. It's called Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution, Discover How to Unleash Your Ultimate Potential. Gregg, Bruce, and Lynne created this iconic masterclass program with Humanities Team. This, again, is the first time they've come together to deliver an important masterclass teaching. Be sure to stay tuned. Now, let's talk to Gregg, Bruce, and Lynne about the exciting topics we'll be exploring with them today. And Gregg, to get us started, do you want to talk a little bit about the concept of transhumanism that's blurring the line between human and machine and what it means for us as evolving humans?
It's a big topic, Steve, and I think it's a perfect place to begin. You know, it's been said that the best way to hide something is to keep it in plain sight. And I think this conversation could not be a better, more beautiful demonstration of that principle. There is a movement that actually began early in the 20th century to fundamentally change the way the human body, the way our biology is presented in the world. It is based upon a false assumption. So I'm just going to share with you this false assumption. The assumption is that we are flawed as a carbon-based form of life, that humans are flawed by their nature. And because we are flawed, that we need something outside of us to be successful in life, successful in the world, and to be healthy in our bodies. And that something is technology. We're being taught that we are victims of circumstances beyond our control in the world, and as victims, we need a savior. So these ideas, this thinking originated early in the 20th century when there was a technological revolution then. Now this technology has evolved to the point where it is taking leaps and bounds. It's not a linear progression. We're talking about exponential progression of technology. The thinking is that we need to replace aspects of the human body with computer chips, with wires, with chemicals to augment our natural capacities. So when we talk about transhumanism, it means different things to different people, but there are essentially three phases. One of them we're already using openly, and that is a prosthetic phase where we use very specialized kinds of contact lenses, for example, to augment eyesight, or artificial hips, heart replacement, skin replacement. And these things are all good in our lives. They people that need them, I'm happy that it's there. The second phase is where we're entering right now, the second and the third, is where the body itself is being replaced with robotics and artificial intelligence. And this is where we enter into the slippery slope. The third phase is the thinking that our consciousness can be reduced to ones and zeros on a computer chip, and that we can live our lives in a digital reality, in a digital universe. And we're going to talk about that more in this webinar today. So I want to be very clear on this. As a scientist, I've seen this all my life. Science and technology typically advance before the morality of how we can apply these things in our lives. And working in the industry, I had this conversation all the time. Scientists would say to me, there are two schools of thought, Steve. They would say, number one, because we have the knowledge to create this technology, it gives us the right to do so. And there's another school of thought that says, whoa, not so fast. Just because we can doesn't mean that we should. So the big question that we're asking ourselves now is, how much of ourselves do we want to give away to the technology? And here's the reason it's important, Steve, because what the science shows is once we begin to replace our natural biology with artificial technology, our capabilities begin to atrophy. Neurons in the brain begin to atrophy. Properties of the blood begin to atrophy. Organs and organ functions begin to atrophy, and we lose the essence of our humanness, including things, emotional components like empathy, sympathy, compassion, and the ability to self-regulate our bodies. So the technology is here to say this conversation is about this question: how much of ourselves do we give away to the technology? We can't answer that until we know who we are. That's what this program is all about. So I'm going to stop right there, and I know we'll pick this up later in the program today.
Yeah, boy, does that set the table or what? So this is where Len was saying, wow, this is the time. We've really got to sit down and have this discussion. Thank you, Greg. That really sets the table beautifully. So Len, let me come back over to you. Futurist John Nesbitt has said that the greatest breakthroughs of the 21st century won't occur because of technology. They will occur because of an expanding concept of what it means to be human. Can you respond to this?
Absolutely. Such a great question, Steve. What we don't understand, because we constantly look to things outside, is how extraordinary this human body is. We have not tapped the vast majority of the capabilities that we have. We are born with extraordinary gifts. And aside from writing books on science and spirituality, I've worked with thousands of people in small groups of 8 and observed them healing other people in the group in 10 minutes. I've also been editor of a magazine called What Doctors Don't Tell You for 31 years. And in that time, I've studied just about every kind of treatment in modern medicine and alternatives, and how wonderful they are for so many things, particularly emergency medicine in many regards. But the best drug, the best surgery cannot ever approximate the brilliance of the human body. And what I'm talking about is our capacity to heal, our capacity to create, out there in the world. I mean, consider this, Steve. Consider a breastfeeding mother. When her baby gets sick, it's not just that she provides antibodies when the baby is well, but when the baby is sick, her breast milk changes in order to treat that illness. Now, that is artificial intelligence on a grand scale. But think about it also that so much of our healing happens with thoughts and words. And that's the thing I'm really fascinated by, is the idea that we are actually in control so much of the time of our ability to heal. So before we start looking outside to all of those new things that Greg talked about, we really have to understand and maximize the extraordinary abilities we have to see beyond our senses, to heal ourselves, to heal the world. We have capacities we haven't even understood yet. So that's really the purpose of this discussion and of our modules, is to really help people understand the magnificence of the human body, the magnificent powers we possess that are better, more extraordinary than really any mechanistic development and technology can ever approximate.
Gosh, yeah, Lynn, so true. Thank you. And there are more and more people that are sharing that we're coming into this age of consciousness that I think is focused on doing exactly what you're talking about, where we're just coming into these new understandings, and we're intentional about it. We're even metaphysical about it. But just coming from the dark ages of Darwinian, Newtonian science that unfortunately has been what our world view, our cultural story has been based on. Well, Bruce, let me come over to you here. So technology, consciousness, and evolution has grown into an iconic theme. You train people all over the world to develop their untapped human capacities. Do you believe that we've only scratched the surface of what is possible when we consider our intrinsic human potential without the need for technological enhancements?
Thank you for that very complicated question, your friend. Because the fact is, no, we haven't even tapped into who we really are. And to really start off this discussion, I really like to say this, is that the most valid science on this planet is quantum physics. And I say that for a very simple reason, is that theoretically, when quantum physics was proposed, there was a whole bunch of insights and ideas about how the universe works. And nearly 100% of those ideas from 1927 turned out to be valid in our new insight of quantum physics. The most important principle was actually stated back in 1927 by one of the founders of quantum physics, Max Planck. And he wrote back then, "The mind is the matrix of all matter." What he meant by that was, in quantum physics, the reality we are experiencing is a consequence of our consciousness. And therefore, we are creating our lives. And in fact, even now in a recent article in Nature, one of the most prestigious scientific journals on the planet, Richard Conn Henry, a quantum physicist from Johns Hopkins, concluded that the universe is immaterial, it's mental and spiritual. Again, reinforcing the idea that our consciousness, our mental activity is what is creating our life experience. Then I look around and I say to people, well, how's that working out for you? Are you creating that heaven on earth that we would all love to experience? And of course, the answer is no. The world is in such great chaos that actually we're facing what is called the sixth mass extinction of life, where our consciousness as we're operating today is actually precipitating our own extinction. So the question is then, if we are creating this with consciousness, then how come all of this chaos is going on? And the answer turns out that while we're creating with consciousness, the brain is an information processor. It is a vast computer, and there are parallels between a computer and human consciousness in this regard. Both of them are operating information processors, the brain, the computer. But the interesting correlation here is simply this. If we go back and I say in the old days, we used to go buy a computer and bring it home and push start and it would boot up. And I say, okay, let's do something. Let's make a drawing. Let's write a spreadsheet or let's create. The answer was, no, you can't do that. And I say, why not? because first you have to put programs into a computer before you can use that computer. And this is really in the human development. The brain can boot up in the last trimester of pregnancy. It's ready to go, but it can't be used until programs are put in. So the first 7 years of our life is actually when our brain is operating in a state of hypnosis, which in EEG terms is called theta vibration. And I say, why is this relevant? Because the first 7 years of our life, we're in a state of hypnosis where we download the rules, the programs of how to be a member of a family and how to be a member of a community. After age 7, then we become the creators because consciousness kicks in, self-consciousness. And I go, so what's relevant to that? I go, well, self-consciousness is the one that wants to manifest heaven on earth. And I go, well, then if we're capable of doing that, still won't explain why we're here. And the answer is simply this. Self-consciousness, the creative part of our mind, can think as well as create. And he goes, so what? I go, thinking is an inside job. I go, so what does that mean? I say, well, if you start to think about something, your self-conscious assessment of the world is not looking out at the world anymore. Thinking is an inside process. And I go, well, what if I'm driving the car and then I'm thinking and I'm not paying attention to what's going on? I go, well, here's the important part. The subconscious has programs. Like I said, most of them were downloaded before age 7. But the subconscious is autopilot. The moment we are thinking, then the character of our life is not controlled by the creative conscious mind. It is now taken over by the subconscious mind, the autopilot. The big issue is only this. 95% of our life, we are thinking. And 95% of our life is not coming from our wishes and desires creative mind. We are actually creating life from the programs that were downloaded in that first 7 years.